Hey, it's Dr. K. I'm a California licensed naturopathic doctor and certified sacred medicine woman. Welcome to the Divine Woman Wellness Podcast. This is a show about whole body wellness that is going to support you in finding alignment with your body, mind, and spirit. I believe every woman should have a deeper understanding of her body and soul, and my mission on this show is to guide you through learning about your body, how you can shift your day-to-day life to support health and wellness, while connecting to yourself on a deeper level. These episodes are rooted in naturopathic medicine, vitalism, biohacking, and mysticism, and will guide you towards well-being in body, mind, and soul. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of the Divine Woman Wellness Podcast. So I decided today to do an impromptu episode. I had one scheduled for today that I was planning on recording, but as you know, the days progressed, I have decided to actually just do a free flow from the heart message because I had a couple of patients today and there was definitely a theme today. So I decided to do this episode from the heart just to be able to give a message that's coming through loudly for me today. And actually, it's a message that's coming through over the last, 12, 24 hours, something like that. And it's a good reminder. So a lot of times, I think everybody has this misconception that people that are doctors or podcast hosts or you name it, whatever public figure, we're perfect, our lives are perfect, and nothing is going on, nothing's coming up. And, this week I've been pushing a lot harder than usual. And today I woke up exhausted and tired, and I had to check in with myself. What is going on? Why am I so tired? Not waking up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And so I decided today to explore some potential causes of fatigue that we can actually address in our day-to-day lives. So fatigue is the major topic, but then not just what are the metabolic factors that fit into or figure into fatigue, but rather what are some of the lifestyle factors that could be contributing to fatigue. So hopefully you guys find this episode interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments. Go ahead and share on Instagram. Rate this episode once you've listened to it, of course. I would really love your feedback. So let's dive in. So fatigue. What could be causing fatigue? Many things. So there are the very common factors for fatigue, and maybe we should cover those first. So nutritional deficiencies and not nourishing our bodies really well, that can definitely contribute to fatigue. So common nutrients include vitamin D, iron. Those two are very common in fatigue. And then iodine deficiency is actually something that I've been seeing a lot more of lately. So iodine deficiency, because that's important for your thyroid function. So those are probably some of the top nutrients. And then, of course, your B vitamins. Those are energy producing vitamins. So those are some things that you could have checked on your annual blood work, or if you're coming in to see me, or like I said, there are options for ordering your own labs. You can explore a little bit further. If you're deficient in those nutrients, it doesn't matter what lifestyle factors you employ, you're still going to have some level of fatigue until those are remedied. Now, if we're not looking at these micronutrients, right, making sure, are we getting good dietary intake? Are we nourishing our bodies? Are we putting gas in the tank of our body, right? Just like a car, if the car's running on fumes, I'm sure you've noticed if the tank is getting close to empty, that car engine feels a little different, right? And we shouldn't let our engines get that low, or our gas tanks, because that's actually not good for our engine. So same thing, we shouldn't let our nutrient stores get so low. It's depleting our body in many different ways. So not only is it causing low blood sugar, but you also don't have the nutrients to run the processes that the body really needs to run. So making sure in the mornings you start your day off with a really well-balanced, nutritious breakfast is probably ideal. We want to have most of our nutrients, 80% of our nutrients, not calories. I want to make sure you guys hear me. We're not calorie counting. We're looking at nutrient density, but we want to have 80% of our nutrients before 2 p.m. And if you want to learn a little bit more about that, the episode I did on intermittent fasting, we dive a little bit deeper on that. So making sure we nourish ourselves in the morning and then we have a breakfast. So I know some people will snack, kind of graze throughout the morning. That's not ideal for our microbiome or your migrating motor complex, the things that move things along in your GI tract. So it is more ideal to have a good hearty breakfast, not a sweet breakfast, a hearty breakfast, and then have a lunch and then a dinner. So we're actually having 3 meals a day. I have some patients where 2 meals work better because we have a very large, maybe a little bit later of a breakfast and then an early dinner. I call it lunch and dinner, kind of in between, but that's different for everybody and you really have to figure out what works best for you. Again, I'm going to reference the intermittent fasting episode because over fasting, even though some people may feel really clear-minded, that may actually be creating more stress and actually creating a blood sugar imbalance. So breakfast should be hearty, lots of nutrient density. I always love sauteed greens, an avocado, protein with breakfast, and actually having a very large breakfast bowl is an ideal way for me to start my day. If for some reason I'm running behind, don't start my day off or I don't have a big breakfast, I definitely notice how that affects me. As the day progresses, I'm much more likely to feel fatigued as lunchtime approaches. And then even if I eat lunch, I notice those days I'm much more prone to that early afternoon, mid-afternoon crash. So what I do, especially in the summertime, I really actually love making myself a really nutrient-dense smoothie. And it's important to build a balanced smoothie. So is this ideal? No, not really, because we want to be chewing our food and there's only so many nutrients we can get in a smoothie. However, if I have to choose between skipping breakfast or just having something that's a quick snack or a smoothie, I'm probably going to choose the smoothie. So for me, I love adding a very nutrient-dense protein powder. So I'm getting kind of a multivitamin and my protein. I love adding berries, liquid of choice, depends on the day. And then a healthy fat, which I think is really, really important when it comes to building a smoothie. So this can be anything from an avocado or part of an avocado to coconut oil or any other oils that you really like. Sometimes I'm actually just adding fish oil and a little bit of coconut oil. So I really pack a lot of things into my smoothie. And if I'm actually going to add my Building a Better Smoothie handout down below so that you can also build yourself a nutrient-dense, balanced smoothie, because most of the times when we're creating a smoothie, we actually end up creating something that will disrupt our blood sugar, because a lot of smoothies, especially if we start adding bananas or more than half a banana, it can actually spike our blood sugar. So what we want to do actually is to stabilize our blood sugar with this smoothie. And as I said, adding in healthy fats and proteins is a really nice way of doing that. And then we can add fun things like green powders, sea moss, broccoli sprouts, sky's the limit. We can make this really nutrient dense and we can give this smoothie more of a purpose in terms of filling our bellies and starting our day with nutrients in the system, and then maybe even supporting detoxification. If we want to get really fancy, depending on the protein powder you choose. So those are some options in the morning. And then make sure you have a lunch. I know it's tricky when we're at work, but this is where planning ahead really comes in handy. So making sure you meal prep maybe on Sundays or the night before, you put together a meal that you can easily eat at work. Something that maybe doesn't require getting heated up would be really nice, but skipping lunch, again, I have some patients that because their schedule and it's just not convenient, they skip lunch, but then they have that afternoon fatigue and come evening, they're craving everything under the sun and they don't feel like they can get satiated. And they may even be a little shaky or just feeling off. So it's important to have that balanced nutrient intake throughout the day. But that's only one component of fatigue that can affect us during the day. Other things is not taking breaks, actually being very sedentary. And I know when we're in an office under artificial lighting and we have meetings or we're going from, for me, patient to patient, there's not a lot of sunshine coming in. And when we're in this darkened environment, it does dysregulate our cortisol in many different ways, but it can also, when we're being sedentary, when we're sitting, we're resting, that can make us feel a little bit more fatigued. So I always recommend getting up as much as possible. Sometimes for practitioners like myself, if I'm with the patient for an hour and a half, or an hour even, those are longer stretches where I am sitting, and it's obviously not convenient to get up, hey, let's go for a walk. I mean, maybe I should. Might be a fun way to break up the sitting and the visit. But that being said, between patients, I make sure I get up and I walk around as much as possible. And the days I do that, even if I just walk around the building really quick or just going to the restroom, those days I notice my energy being a little bit better versus the days where I'm just, walking out to the waiting room and calling the next patient in. So it's just sitting and there's nothing breaking it up. Pumping your legs if you're at a desk job and you can't get up as frequently, even pumping your legs, getting things moving, standing up at your desk, doing some quick stretches. Those are some ways we can break up our day and have some circulation improved in our system, right? Or improved circulation to get the blood back up to our brain. Even if you run in place for 30 seconds, it doesn't take much to stimulate blood flow and then stimulate the mitochondria. So that can help improve your blood sugar, but also your fatigue levels. Obviously, don't overexert yourself. Some other things can actually be human design. So I think this is and that was a really rough transition, but hear me out. Like, how does human design tie into this? And I'm not sure if you are even familiar with human design, but it's this amazing tool that you can utilize to understand your body better from an energetic standpoint. It utilizes multiple different disciplines, including astrology, the I Ching, I think the gene keys, and a few others. I'm still learning a lot about it. But what is really interesting, there are different energy types, and there are 5 different energy types. There's generators, manifestors, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors, I think. Forgive me if that is wrong. I am still learning a lot about this. But for myself, ever since I identified what my energy type is, things in my life, especially around fatigue, started making a lot of sense. And I'm starting to pick up the patterns with my patients as well, which I just find interesting. And some patients, if they're really interested in these kind of modalities, I'll mention it. And in others, I just kind of take it into consideration. Now, you do need to know your time of birth, date of birth, and where you were born to actually get accurate answers. So obviously I only do that with consent of my patients, and how else would I get the information? But I'll take myself as a example here, as, like a little case study. So I found out I am a projector, and projectors are what we call non-energy types. So it's almost like we don't have our own energy generation. We work really well with generators who make their own energy. And just hang in there, okay? Just hang in there. I know these are a lot of concepts I'm starting to throw out here. We're not going to get too deep. But anyways, for myself, for being a non-energy type, I'm really efficient. That's one of the awesome things about projectors, but I don't have a very long battery life, which is interesting because all my life I've always thought I can go, 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 go. And I didn't realize how that was contributing to my burnout. Can I do it? Can I keep up with it? Yes, until the candle has been burnt at both ends and the middle. And that's kind of where I am now. It's like, okay, I've crispy fried myself again because I did not heed to my energy type. And so for projectors, what works really well is actually a midday nap, or what I'm doing most days is my second meditation, middle of the day, kind of when I start feeling like I'm getting tired, my battery's getting depleted, actually stop what I'm doing, do my meditation. And if I'm actually really still tired afterwards, I actually will just take a nap. And I know meditation a lot of times can feel like a nap, and it's plenty to recharge the battery, and it's beautiful and I love it. And other times I really lean into my body and it actually communicates with me and says like, no, can we just take a 15-minute nap? And I do that and I wake up feeling amazing, which is really interesting because I definitely historically would say I'm a terrible napper because when I fall asleep, I can't ever get the timing right, and I do the 19 minutes, so I'm not in the REM sleep cycle, and I've done all the hacks, but until I've really listened to myself and I've stopped pushing my body as hard and, kind of like pedal to the metal 24/7, back to our car analogy, once I started slowing down and taking regular breaks, I can actually take a 10-15 minute nap and feel really good. So my point being is, if you're at all one of those patients where you've tried everything, your nutrients are great, your thyroid's great, your hormones are great, everything physiologically is great, you're nourished, but you're still running out of steam midday, I'm going to throw this out there that maybe and this is fun. You can just Google human design, I think, calculator, and check what your energy type is. And I would probably be willing to almost bet maybe 80% of you may actually be projectors. And that means you need the rest. You need to recharge your battery, and coming with a lot of compassion around that too. Because for me, I'm a high achiever. I get a lot done. Haha, ding ding, efficiency. But I was being over efficient in too many different areas, so it was not heeding the strength of the efficiency and balancing it with the rest. So making sure that when we're on, and when we're off. So scheduling downtime, a mid-afternoon nap, meditation, quiet time, book, like reading for a little bit, anything that really recharges your battery, that fills up your tank, and we can go a little bit further. Maybe we're Teslas. I'm not sure. Okay, laughter is truly the best medicine. But taking that into consideration, that some people just don't naturally make a lot of energy. And I find that if I respect my energy type, I live a much more balanced life that feels really good. And then I can do a lot more. I can accomplish a lot of things. But then those days where I push, and like recently I picked up rock climbing, and then I went on a super long hike, and I wasn't slowing down, and I'm doing all my work, and I'm working on the business, and the ands, and they start adding up, and the only downtime is the nighttime. And even then, that one's a little bit rocky because of all the things in my mind. That's adding to my fatigue during the day. But if I slow down, today being a prime example, I was feeling really, really fatigued. I mean, I woke up fatigued. I made it through my workday okay. And then I got home, and I was walking my dog, and we only made it around the block one time, which normally we're going on multiple mile walks multiple times a day. And I just felt like I hit the wall. And so I came home. I'm like, okay, I haven't done my meditation. I haven't slowed down. And I really was looking forward to coming home and recording the podcast. And I couldn't, not because I didn't want to, but I actually felt so fatigued. I felt like I could have laid down and slept the rest of the night until tomorrow morning. And it was still really early in the afternoon. So I decided instead I'm going to do my meditation, and if I'm still tired after my meditation, I'm going to allow myself to take a little bit of a nap. And so I did my 17-minute meditation, which helped a little bit, but I was still feeling a little groggy and sluggish. And so I leaned into, what does my body need? Do I need to get up? Do I need to get electrolytes? Do I need to rest more? What do I need? Actually checking in with myself and, listening to my body. It's like, no, I want to rest. Give me 10-15 minutes. So I closed my eyes, actually just took a really brief nap. I think it was maybe 15-20 minutes by the time I actually fell asleep and napped. And I woke up, and I feel really good right now. And I'm so glad I did that, because it allowed me to restore my energy, fill my cup back up. So now I have the energy to actually provide a good podcast. I hope it's a good podcast. I hope you're enjoying it. So that's something that I think conventionally in the medical system, we don't really look at, like how is somebody's body operating, right? And tying in a little bit more, I guess, of the esoterics, but it really is, there's so much information we can garner from it. I mean, we've been using these kinds of understandings, technology, whatever you want to call them, practices, maybe that's a good word. We've been using these practices for a long period of time, like thousands of years, where that actually informed our healthcare, what might be going on with somebody's body, not human design specifically, because again, that is rather new. But I just want to make sure that we normalize, if you're just the person that does great with a 15-minute nap, and then your energy's 10 out of 10 again, or 9 out of 10, what's wrong with taking the nap? Listen to what your body needs. Other things that can cause fatigue is actually adrenal dysfunction. And I guess that ties in a little bit more to what I was just saying. So if we've burnt the candle at both ends and the middle, there's a good chance that our adrenals are really, really struggling. So that's something where an adrenal supplement can come in and be really helpful. Or also just making sure we have that regular eat-sleep cycle. I always tell my patients, if you can't afford any supplements, or if we did nothing to restore your adrenals, the best thing you can do is have a regular eat-sleep cycle. And with that comes stress management, of course, because stress does deplete the adrenals, and that's really important. So making sure you listen to your body and you work with it instead of against it. So adrenal symptoms can be just along the lines of chronic fatigue or fatigue in the afternoon, where we're just not, there's no pep in our step. We're just feeling very wrung out. And so that would be something where the regular eat sleep cycle comes in, stress management, and then potentially an adrenal supplement. Now, piggybacking off of that, what I see oftentimes with adrenal insufficiency or people who just don't have adrenals that are functioning at their optimal are electrolyte imbalances. Or if we're drinking filtered water, which is great, I want you to make sure and drink filtered water because we have so many toxins and toxicants in our water supply, but our water is very empty. So dehydration from either water or electrolyte insufficiency can also contribute to fatigue. We need the water to run a lot of our physiological reactions, and then the electrolytes for actually nerve conduction is very important, and they function as cofactors in many other processes. So another thing that I see contributing to fatigue, especially if this is a heaviness fatigue and the patient has any swelling, say in their legs, is a giveaway. Or sometimes I can see some patterns on lab work that may indicate fatigue related to dehydration. So a lot of times, and if somebody has fatigue and brain fog, that would be another one. Let's make sure we're hydrating well. And I hear a lot of times, oh, I'm drinking a whole gallon of water every single day and I can't quench my thirst and I'm still thirsty. Or how can I be dehydrated? I drink all this water. And usually my answer is, my question back would be, are you putting electrolytes into your water? And that is so important to add the electrolytes in. So here's the mechanism behind that. When we drink filtered water, it's devoid of minerals. Water we evolved with was usually spring water or from some natural source. That water was very nutrient dense. It was very mineral dense, I should say. Think spring water, Carlsbad alkaline water, waters that naturally have a lot of minerals in them. Those will replete the body. And yes, there are minerals in our food source, especially in watery fruits and vegetables. That is one way to get that in. But our soil is depleted, our water is depleted. And so what happens is we drink water, and because of osmotic pressures and gradients within the body, it's actually pulling the electrolytes out of the body into the bloodstream because it's over diluted, and then we're peeing everything out. So we're losing the water and potentially washing out more electrolytes, and so then we get more and more and more depleted and dehydrated, and even if we're drinking a lot of water, we may even feel more sluggish. So the remedy for that is putting the electrolytes back in your water. I actually really love the superior electrolytes. They come in a lot of different flavors. They're delicious. I love them. The fresh citrus is my absolute favorite. My kids like grape. They have not been exposed to grape flavored medicines growing up. I can't stand the grape, but they have other flavors, including watermelon, and I don't even know all their flavors, but they have a lot of variety, and I love that they don't add a ton of sugar. They do add a little bit of stevia. I don't really like stevia. I can't even taste the stevia, so I know it's in lower quantities. And they use Himalayan sea salt. Think there's a little bit of potassium in there, but it really improves the mineral content within the water. And I notice if I'm feeling fatigued and I've only been drinking filtered water, say at work at the refill station, I notice that I'm actually craving electrolytes or mineral rich things. So I will then make sure to make a habit of adding these electrolytes back into my water. And that makes such a big difference for energy, but also mental clarity. Like I feel like I'm waking up. It's almost like a flower that's wilted. When you put it in water, it takes a moment, but it does perk up and it just lifts its petals. That's what that feels like. If you don't want to buy fancy electrolytes, there are other options. Concentrate trace minerals are really nice. I know there are some reverse osmosis filters out there now that actually remineralize, which is really important. I don't have a particular brand. I haven't done my research on that yet. So if I find something, I will definitely let you know. The other solution is also really simple, is take some Himalayan sea salt, like a pinch of sea salt or Celtic sea salt. You can put it right in your water. What I learned recently, especially with Celtic sea salt, is if you take a few of those crystals and put them right on your tongue, it actually absorbs better, more quickly, and it actually hydrates the body more efficiently. And the different types of magnesium contained in Celtic sea salt specifically just enter the body again more efficiently. So you put the crystals on your tongue, and then you take a drink of water, and that definitely I thought it would taste bad, but that definitely helps. I notice a big difference with that. So you can put it in your water, on your tongue, decide what works for you. Now, I wouldn't do this with iodized sea salt because that is actually just sodium chloride and iodine. First, I don't know how that would taste. I guess it would taste fine, salty if you put too much in your water. But there comes a concern of then having too much sodium chloride and not enough potassium. So whatever electrolytes you choose, I do think it's really important to get something that has a myriad of minerals, including potassium, because I see more and more of my patients potassium deficient, and that can cause brain fog, fatigue, swelling, irregular cardiovascular beats. So again, potassium, that's an important one, and I see that a lot as a deficiency nowadays. Let's see, what else can contribute to fatigue? Oh, sleep. Oh, yeah, this is how this whole thing started. So glad I thought about that. Okay, so sleep is important, and this is what ties back into one of the points that I made when I first started this conversation is dietary intake. So the other thing that I noticed last night is I had dinner really late for me, and that just does not work well for my body. So I ended up having dinner at 8 o'clock. I ate something that I normally wouldn't eat, or as much as I wouldn't eat of normally, and sleep is okay, but I did feel sluggish this morning. My bowels were off. Like everything in my body felt off. I felt a lot more inflamed. Like I feel like I closed my eyes, but I didn't do the sleeping thing, the repair thing at sleep that we're supposed to do. So even though I still got to bed at a decent time, maybe a tiny bit later than I would like, but I had a full belly when I laid down, and I'm pretty sure my belly still felt full this morning, and normally I don't have any issues with digestion as long as I'm having my meal earlier, which is more optimal. So when we go to bed with food in our stomach or in our intestines, when our bodies are supposed to be doing their housekeeping actions, I always look at it this way, it's sending mixed messages. So your body is actually breaking down food and trying to absorb nutrients, but you're also trying to detoxify and repair your gut. So we're trying to dump things into the gut and we're trying to do a repair. I mean, I don't know about you, but have you ever tried repairing something while somebody was piling stuff on top? It's not going to work as efficiently. And yes, everything is a cartoon in my mind, I promise. That's how I remember so many things. They're fun for me to visualize. So that being said, so now we have compromised digestive function and compromised repair cycles. I know there are definitely people out there, if they eat late or if they eat, go to bed with a full stomach, they have nightmares or their sleep is more restless. So because we're not actually optimizing our sleep, our heart rate variability isn't as great when we have a full stomach. We wake up feeling a bit more tired because we actually didn't regenerate when we were sleeping. We didn't do the sleeping thing very well. The other thing that impacts sleep and then the next day fatigue is screen time. So this is screen time during the day, but also screen time in the evening. And it's important we look at both of those. So let's go ahead and break that down. Daytime screen exposure raises cortisol levels, which is fine technically because daytime melatonin shouldn't be very high. But I do notice it's really pushing hard on the adrenals. So for me, I have a program on my computer that's called F.Lux, which I really love, which actually takes out some of the blue light as the day progresses, especially in the evening. My screen turns this beautiful, well, really annoying orange initially, but you get used to it. And then you sleep much better. And on my phone, I always have night shifts at set to sunrise, which helps with my daytime exposure. And on top of that, during the day when I'm working with patients or in the evening if I'm doing some work at home, I'm always wearing my blue blocker glasses. Yes, I'm not wearing them right now for doing my podcast because I can't stand the reflection with the lights. So that's okay. It's only a little bit. But avoiding blue light, and as the day progresses, making sure we decrease the amount of blue light exposure in our home, because blue light exposure from the phones, from the computer, from the bright lights, the overheads, the artificial lighting we have in our house, it raises our cortisol, and high cortisol at night suppresses melatonin. So now if we're staying up on our phones until 9, even 8 o'clock, but live a little. So if we're staying up with blue light exposure, even from the TV screen, and it's 9, 10 o'clock, that keeps our cortisol elevated for at least 2 hours, and melatonin is actually highest from 10 until 2. So if we shut our things down at, say, 9 o'clock, then it will be until 11 o'clock before melatonin can start to rise. And so we've missed that primary window of high melatonin. Our sleep isn't as efficient. Our HRV isn't optimal, right? We're not doing the repair cycles as efficiently because we have less melatonin overall. And I know I have a lot of patients that stay up on their phone until midnight, 1 o'clock. So if we're staying up really late with blue light exposure, then that may completely negate a night of melatonin. And if you do that night after night, you may still fall asleep. You may still sleep 8 hours, but you wake up feeling tired the next day. So that's an important factor to take into consideration. So before I give my patients sleep supplements, or we really do anything else, it's around fatigue. It's important to have these foundations in place, like avoiding blue light, getting to bed on time, having a wind down routine, whatever that looks like for them, but making sure we're not making it hard for the body to do what it naturally would be doing if we wouldn't have these blue light devices. Now, the other thing, if you're feeling fatigued and it's more of a chronic fatigue, a day-to-day fatigue, you're always waking up tired, sleep, there's another factor that I want to look at, and it's actually snoring or sleep apnea, both of which, or sleep hypoxia, which is just low oxygen levels at night, and mouth breathing. So those are a couple of factors that can impact our sleep quality. Now, mouth breathing, snoring, hypoxia, and apnea are all things that disrupt our body from getting really good rest. They raise cortisol because it's stress inducing. It lowers melatonin. And so again, we can't detoxify, we can't repair. We're not getting that HRV, those scores on all the fun devices we have nowadays. So that's something that is really important to address. I do recommend mouth taping. If we're not really congested, if you're very congested, it's important to take care of the congestion. If you have allergies, get a HEPA filter. Do what you need to do so you can nose breathe at night. And if you don't know whether you do or not, ask a partner if you have a partner, or some telltale signs are a dry mouth on waking, kind of a sore, icky throat, just feeling dry overall. You've probably had your mouth open at night, or chapped, dry lips, because we should maintain the moisture level in our mouth when our mouth is closed. So those are some things that could be contributing to fatigue on a more ongoing basis. Blood sugar regulation, so bringing it full circle again, we talked a little bit about dietary intake. Now, if you have elevated A1Cs, higher amounts of blood sugar, or dysregulated blood sugar, so it's going high and low, or even hypoglycemia, low blood sugar levels for whatever reason, that also causes fatigue. So again, make sure we balance or do what we need to do to balance blood sugar levels. Oh, there was one other thing something that I've been looking into a little bit more are EMF exposures. So that's electromagnetic frequency exposures, especially in the bedroom. So this goes from making sure we don't have our devices in our bedroom. So no laptop, no phones or other electronic devices, no TVs, nothing on in the bedroom. The only thing the bedroom is good for is sleep and, having some fun time. Electronics have no place. And even if you turn your phone on airplane mode, it is still transmitting, it is still emitting EMFs. Those are actually some things that can actually really negatively affect your sleep quality. So I have had patients that were doing everything right. They're doing a beautiful sleep routine or bedtime routine, that great sleep hygiene, doing everything right, but their sleep quality really was still impacted. And so they actually did the experiment of leaving their devices outside the room, unplugging everything, and they started sleeping much better. And so this happens over and over again. I've done the experiment for myself. I now have an old school alarm clock. There's nothing electronic in my bedroom that's plugged in at night. And there's actually nothing electronic in my bedroom. My phone is all the way off. It is a brick. And I remember the first night I did that. Oh my goodness, I slept so good. It was like I had gone camping. That same sleep quality, sleeping outdoors, that deep, luscious sleep. I don't know if you guys have gone camping, but if you have, I hope you know this feeling. But that's what it felt like the first night where I slept without a phone in my bedroom. And before, I was guilty of just turning it on airplane mode because, it's my alarm clock. Apparently it does make a difference. Now, we can go down the rabbit hole with EMFs a little bit. We're not going to do that today. This is already quite a long episode. But something I want to mention is there's a great book, and it's the Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. If you're curious about it, read it. It has a lot of great science-based information, because even dirty electricity, like having outlets right by your head, may potentially be emitting EMFs at night when you're not even aware of it, which is interesting because Feng Shui would say don't have electronics in the bedroom and definitely don't have outlets by your head. At least that's my understanding of Feng Shui. I always love when there are multiple modalities that overlap in their recommendations, and for me that's one of those ding 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 moments of like, there's a grain of truth here. Grounding, something we haven't talked about. It is something that, yes, ties in a little bit to EMFs, but even if you have no EMFs, actually the ability to ground your body is really important for sleep, but even for fatigue, right? So we are electrochemical beings, and we're designed to discharge some of that electricity that builds up into the ground. Now, I'm sure everybody's walked up to a shopping cart, to a friend, to a car, and we've gotten zapped. Well, that's that buildup of that electricity, and we're constantly grounded in our house. Well, we're actually shielded, not grounded. We're prevented from being grounded, even if we're barefoot in our homes, unless we have specific carpeting and whatnot that actually supports grounding. But our body's not really able to discharge. We wear shoes all day. It's just, we're not connected to the earth. And then we lay down and we basically sleep with all this extra electricity in our body. Obviously not large amounts, but enough to cause some disruption. And if we disrupt our sleep, then we don't have as good energy. So some people notice a huge improvement in sleep quality once they get grounding sheets, and that makes a world of difference for them. So these are all what I consider low-hanging fruit, lifestyle factors that can actually improve your sleep quality. And if our sleep quality is better, our energy is better. So today's episode, I know, was a longer episode, but I wanted to make sure we touch in on each of those. I will probably down the road do some episodes focused on some nuances within each of those, because again, this is a snapshot of, let's take an inventory of what's in our life that could be contributing to fatigue throughout the day. And they're low-hanging fruit because a lot of these are inexpensive or cheap modifications, or free. A lot of these are free modifications we can make to our lifestyle that can have an improvement in our sleep quality, but also our overall energy. And if your sleep already is great and you're wearing a device and you have a really high HRV, heart rate variability, then sleep may not be your issue. And it's definitely important to look at the daytime factors as well. So I would love to continue this conversation. If you have any questions, check out the posts on Instagram referring to this episode. And please comment. If you have questions, just either DM me and we can address them if it's a common question. And honestly, all questions are great questions. I would love, love, love the ability to answer your questions, maybe on a live or even just in a post, because, that is a great way to put information out permanently for you to see, but then also for other people to have the benefit from. Okay, so if you've enjoyed today's episode from the Divine Woman Wellness Podcast, please go ahead and rate and review wherever you're listening. I would love, love, love to see and read your reviews. I actually really do enjoy reading those reviews. Make sure you go ahead and take a screenshot of your review and tag me on Instagram. I love seeing your faces of the people who are reviewing my podcast or who are just loving my podcast. If you don't feel like reviewing and you still want to give a shout out, just go ahead and take a screenshot of the podcast and tag me in it. I would love to see who's listening. Now, I do have my 28-day gut and hormone reset course coming up. I'm hoping to launch it in the next couple of weeks. The wait list is actually down below, so make sure you check out the links or the link in my bio so that you can be the first to know when this comes out. All right, so for today, I think it's a wrap. So thank you so much for staying until the end. I love you guys, and I can't wait to record the next episode. All right. Ciao for now. Bye.